Welcome back to Nature Talk, and today we are discussing about the Sustainable Development Goals. Our guest in studio is Sam Nyamwange, who has been telling us more about the Sustainable Development Goals. So, Sam, tell us more about the Sustainable Development Goals.
The SDGs, as we had spoken earlier, are a very set of interesting pro-development goals. Now, within the 17 SDGs, we have 169 targets. And these 169 targets have, each target has at least between 1 to 3 indicators. Now, in total, we have 304 indicators. Amongst these 304 indicators, these indicators show us how we are moving, how they are the baseline of how are we moving towards achieving a specific goal. Because under clean energy, we have a lot of energy which should be looked into, be it solar energy, wind power, etc., and how they are being used to ensure that the process is wholly clean and we receive good energy. Yeah.
So what is your personal experience with the Sustainable Development Goals?
My personal journey with the Sustainable Development Goals is very interesting, if I may say. In 2017, that is when I first heard and took seriously the Sustainable Development Goals in class. Well, in class because, yes, you must take it seriously. So that is when I started developing a bit of a hunger of what are these goals, how do I go about them. So I hatched a project that deals with SDG 7, clean and affordable energy, and I presented it at a conference which was happening in school. And the feedback I got from that conference was that it was very good, and I started taking small actions to ensure that I push it forward. Now, fast forward to June 2017, I enrolled for a competition called My Little Big Thing competition, which is run by MK Africa and Cambridge University Institute of Sustainability Leadership. So I enrolled, and somehow I got through, and I got to be among the top 3 winners, who then got to go to South Africa for a training by Cambridge. So we were there for about 3 days, and this is when I developed another more hunger for sustainability as a whole, because I feel like this is now getting very interesting. So slowly I started developing an interest in the SDGs. Now, so far, in April, we worked together with MK Africa and the government, the Ministry of Planning and Treasury, and we launched the first fully SDG-led club/association in the whole of Kenya. So this club, which I lead, I am the president of this club, we basically try to move to real action within the SDGs. And real action is through innovation. So we come up with either projects or things to do within our communities to ensure that we are fostering the SDGs. Now, so far, since this club has been fully and registered in existence for almost 8 weeks, and that is like 6 weeks when we were in school, when we were still in school, I did a lot of training to the members on what each and every goal is about. So at least 72 members of Kenyatta University know what these SDGs are, what they can do for them, and what they can do for the SDGs, and what the SDGs can do for them. So basically that is my personal experience with the SDGs.
Wow, it's awesome. And so can you talk about clean and affordable energy and SDG number 17 that deals with partnerships?
Before I relate the two, let me speak to them separately. So clean water and sanitation is a very interesting SDG, and it's divided into three ways, where you look at how water gets into people's homes or domestic use or whichever kind of use it's getting into, the sanitation of that water and the hygiene. So when you're talking about sanitation, you're talking about things like access to toilets, access to hand washing facilities, access to showers, access to water to ensure that your domestic life is going on, because you really can't survive without water. So this is also an interesting SDG because it deals directly with the environment. Because we definitely get water from the environment, be it rainwater, be it river water, be it ocean water. It is directly from the environment. We cannot produce water on our own, as much as we are making strides to it. So ensuring that every citizen, every last drop of citizen has an access to clean water and has an access to proper sanitation to ensure that they are living and they are moving on very well in life. Now, if you also look at this SDG, it links very well with SDG number 3, which is good health and well-being. You see, when you have clean water, that means you take proper showers. That means you take proper drinking water. That means you wash your hands well. And that means there are no germs within your body, and that means you have good health. So these SDGs are also very interlinked, and it's very hard to deal with one SDG on its own, because you find that whenever you're doing something, you're addressing an indicator in a certain goal. So SDG number 17, partnerships for the goals, and this is my favorite SDG. Partnerships for the goals has become my favorite because I have learned how to make partnerships. And now I believe that you cannot address these SDGs fully and sustainably without making partnerships. When you're working on your own, it proves very difficult to achieve any SDG. But calling someone who is doing a certain thing, when you guys are facing a certain goal, when you have the same goal and you have a shared vision, then it's very easy to deal with it and move on very quickly. So you find that there are very many associations that are coming up. Environmental associations that deal with climate change. Recently I was in a meeting with an association called Regional Centers of Expertise, where they deal with such matters of environment. So when you form partnerships and get people who are actors for these goals, put them in a room and say, now, since you guys are doing the same job, why don't you do it together? So you find that when you're doing it together, you actually move on very swiftly. Now, if I link SDG number 6 and 17, if you look at the process of how water gets into a home and how water gets out, what if we link these two people who are getting this water out and the people who are getting this water in, and make them act as one entity? Then you have a very clear process of how water is going, and you know who to blame whenever you have unclean water, or whenever water is an issue. So that is how you link SDG number 17 and 6 and any SDG for that matter.
And there is this SDG that talks about life on land. And specifically when we look at the forest cover, in your opinion, do you think it's going to be at 10%, or do you think it's going to surpass it by 2030?
SDG number 15, and I really like that its icon is a tree. So we are talking about forest cover. So it's really about the zeal that the leaders have to deal with this, because I believe leadership is a complete thing that we need to address for us to get all the SDGs. So like this year, we have had a lot of tree plantings in Kenya. Now, ensuring that these trees actually grow, because we might be doing tree plantings and, goats come and eat these trees that we have planted and we are done. After a good CSR of going out there and taking good photos of us planting trees, So environmentalists say that we are moving from tree planting to tree growing. So ensuring that these trees actually grow. Because we might be doing a lot in ensuring that we are planting trees. But if they don't grow, then, we'll not achieve the 10% cap. But however, if we continue with the same spirit that we currently have in Kenya, and other countries use Kenya as an example maybe, then we'll move forward very well. And ensuring that there is a sustainable way of getting and planting these trees and growing them. Because we might do a lot of tree planting and end up with no seedlings, And if the trees we have planted do not survive, then we are not doing ourselves any favors. So we need to ensure that there is a very sustainable way that these trees are being brought up in their nurseries and are being transplanted into where they are being planted. They are planted well, and then someone has to take account to ensure that these trees grow. And that is the only way we'll achieve the 10% tree cover.
Okay. So what is the baseline to the Sustainable Development Goals?
Now, in my opinion, there are several baselines that we need to address to ensure that we meet the Sustainable Development Goals. Number one is leadership. Leadership is paramount, because without leadership, we do not have these goals. And I somehow like to think of myself as a leader. And if I look at my personal experience, in places that I feel that I led badly, then there are no results. And in places that I feel that I led well, there are very good results. So until we have good leadership which understands that these goals are for our own good, and for our own agenda and for our own sustainability on this earth, then that is the only way we'll ensure that these goals are reached by 2030. That's one. Number two is innovation. Now, if we continue with our businesses, our day-to-day life in the normal way, then I don't think we're moving. We need to innovate and do things differently and ensure the things we are doing are being sustainable. Each entity that you do, each system that you're making, it should come from the very first thing that comes into the system and the very last thing that gets out of the system. And actually how it even comes into the system. Look at it and bring it in a very sustainable way through innovation. That is the only way I believe, again, the Sustainable Development Goals can be achieved. Another very interesting way that I have recently come about, I have never looked at it in that way, is land resource. You look at these SDGs and they are all linked to the land resource in one way or another. So if we find a way to ensure that we are dealing with the land resource sustainably, we are in fact dealing with this. And someone will ask out there, land resource and SDG 5, gender equality, But if you look at it in this way, if we are very gender equal when we are distributing land from either our homes or anywhere, that women get land and they actually own it, it can be a very good way to ensure that we have agriculture. Because if you look at it, women are the people who actually go to the farms. But when they do not own this land, then they might feel very demotivated to get out there and go do agriculture. They might do agriculture for themselves, for their homes, and that's it. But if you show a woman that, you can do more than this, and when you actually own this land, you can make yourself some food and make for others too, it moves to SDG 2, zero hunger. And it moves to again SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, because we are improving our growth. So land resource is a very interesting way that you can look at the SDGs. Now, I also like the SDGs in another way, that it links very well, it sits very squarely with the development agenda of Kenya. The development agenda of Kenya look at the Big Four agenda of the president and Vision 2030. These are things that if you apply the SDGs into it, they're very interesting. And you know, we are looking at 2030 as the baseline for all these things, be it universal health cover, be it housing, be it manufacturing, which again sits squarely with SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. So we're looking at a set of development goals that if we merge together and we use the SDG as an actor to ensure that these goals are acting into it, then you know, we're moving and we're good to go. Yeah.
So what is your closing remarks? Yeah.
My closing remarks would be a sort of motivation to the person who's watching this. Look at the SDGs. There are 304 indicators. 17 goals, 169 targets, 304 indicators. Pick one or two indicators. Don't pick many, just one or two, and run with it. That right there might be the big break that we need to break even and to get to the sustainable development goals. And that is the only way we achieve it. So, yeah, I am looking forward to being part of the process, as I am already, and bringing more people to this call. Yeah, because we need more people. I am actually in the process of recruiting university student leaders to start such clubs in the universities and push this word, so that we ensure that the 45%, university students who know about the SDGs are helping the other 55%, and we're moving on, because that is the only way we move.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much once again, Sam, for honoring our invitation. And to the viewer, continue staying tuned to Champions TV for this and much more.